Nelson, alcoholic addict. That's not my real name, but that is a real good description of me. I am an alcoholic and I am an addict, and I will tell you all about some addict behaviors today. The other day, one of my kids was on a real heater. Like every person she interacted with, including me, sucked, and she let you know that you sucked. And so she was throwing fastballs. She was on fire, and I knew right away. I knew what I should be thinking, which is that, hey, she's having a tough day. She's in a bad mood. Everybody has those, right? Everybody deserves the right to blow off a little steam around loved ones. Blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, that's great and all, but that's not what happened. I would love to say that was my how my behavior went. It's not. I immediately decided, without actually even considering it, that I was going to fight fire with fire. And it's almost like my default setting is like, I see your level of assholery, and I would like to double the amount of assholes in this conversation right now. And so I did. She sniped at me. I sniped back at her. She sniped back at me a little louder. I returned fire. This went on and on until eventually I realized how silly it was. How silly it was to fight fire with fire. Like, if you fight fire with fire, guess what? You're both on fire. So let's poison each other. How about that? Great strategy. Back when I was drinking, I often didn't do that, but I did one of two things, neither of which was good. If someone was barking at me, I would either say nothing and retreat, or I would lash back out in such an aggressive way that it would borderline ruin relationships. It was totally fight or flight, and extreme versions of both of those things, extreme fights or extreme flights. And both were really bad reactions, and I didn't know what to do, so I drank. In sobriety, I've gotten a little better at navigating people who are on emotional benders, but I have pride and I have an ego, and I occasionally find myself thinking, hey, I don't deserve to be treated like that. I'm going to stand up for myself. Look out. Man, that is a dangerous thought, because on the surface, it makes so much sense logically that you would stand up for yourself. After all, I think we're told in sobriety that we can work a good program, turn our lives around, clean up the wreckage of our past, and not have to bow down before anybody. But if you think about somebody who's having a really bad day and giving you a hard time because of it, what is the spiritual answer to that? Is it, hey, go F yourself, nobody talks to me like that, let me tell you more about it? Or is it the quiet realization that there's a lot of sickness and a lot of suffering out there in the world, and sometimes it comes out sideways for people, and that maybe I can provide a sounding board and a safe place and a little grace as this person ranting and raving in front of me works through their stuff? Which one of those is better? Like, let's fight, or why don't you tell me more about that? I think the second option is much better for a sober life, though, as I admitted earlier, I didn't do that recently for my daughter, and I don't do it as much as I would like. When I did realize what was happening with my daughter and my role in it, I dialed down my reactions, and I just listened, even as she blew off some serious steam. Let me tell you, she was throwing fastballs for sure. But when I dialed it down, what I found was she dialed it down. 5 minutes later, her volume was way lower than before, and she seemed to have worked through her stuff, at least a little bit. And it turns out she had a very difficult day and had a little outburst because of it. I was on the other end of it. Didn't really affect me in any real significant way. So just by letting her throw those fastballs at my head and not reacting, we both got to a better place. I also spent some time thinking about all the various shitty attitudes that I sometimes experience from others, and then I adopt myself. It is a lot. Let me tell you, it is a lot. I can slide into almost any bad mood, whatever it is. If somebody's angry, I sometimes get angry too. If somebody's doing the whole, like, poor me, the world sucks, self-pity thing, I'm in. All I needed was the invite. Here I am. If somebody's firing off a bunch of gossip, I dig into my gossip war chest and I look at how can I contribute. That's a pretty shitty way to go through life, honestly. And it usually means my spirituality is pretty flimsy and susceptible to melting down. And when I know who I am and my worth to the world and I'm comfortable with it, I'm much less likely to join you in shit talking Biff from the accounting department. I'm just not going to participate in that. I'd like to think that interaction with my daughter was maybe an important refresher that got hammered home yet again about letting you have your thing and I'll have my thing and they don't need to be the same. But I guess we'll see. Something tells me if you show up outside my house this week and start complaining about the traffic in town, I will join you in 3.7 seconds. But we'll see. Maybe I can do better than that. Thanks for letting me share.